Hello there, welcome to Genesis Models. My name is Bo Waldron and welcome to this month's Q&A here at Genesis Models in this vlog. Now we're just going to get kick-started with this Q&A. By the way, actually this Q&A is the very first Q&A, a series that we're starting, that we're doing on a monthly basis, where I take a lot of your questions that you ask on all the different platforms, from YouTube, the forum, emails, bring them all together, and I do a nice little video of sort of like the main sort of Q&As we've got, as well as maybe showing you a few little things that people have asked. So first off, we have Eric Balerion, and now Eric Balerion is basically asking, in the AK Interactive YouTube series that Bobby had made, he uses 99% isopropyl alcohol, basically IPA to pronounce it short because it's easier to pronounce. Basically I used it to clean my models prior to applying a primer. What he's wondering is, how will the IPA affect aftermarket parts such as resin, photo etch and CA glue, and pretty much anything else like that. This is kind of like an easy one to answer really, because IPA, from what I found with anything to do with modeling, it doesn't really affect anything. The only thing really you should sort of look out for when it comes to IPA is paint, right? I will clean my models before doing stuff like priming and stuff, but if you've already sort of primed the model or you've sprayed your model, you don't go off and use IPA to then clean your model, right? Because it's got paint on, and IPA will affect the paint. Now as for photo etch, it won't affect photo etch, but I haven't actually tested this, but I know some photo etch by Edard, they have like this sort of, they kind of print on a pattern onto the photo etch, you know, all the sort of all the dials and everything for cockpits and instrument display panels and stuff. They'll print that on there. I haven't tested it, but because it's whatever they've printed on there, whether it's paint, ink or something, whatever, the IPA could eat into that, so to be careful. But then, in all honesty, I've never really cleaned my photo etch pieces up with IPA before either, but probably best to stay away from the printed type of photo etch in all honesty. And that's basically it. You know, it's a really good product. It's a product that's really cheap. You can go out and buy it by the litres. It's perfect for scale modelling because it's basically a basic ingredient for, you know, household cleaning products. So it cleans up the grease and the grime off your models, and at the same time, because it evaporates so quickly, we haven't got to worry about it sort of sitting on the model or going into nooks and crannies, and we've got to wait for it to dry. It just dries really quickly. So it's a really good product to have, and really cheap, and doesn't really affect anything. Just think about paint and maybe printed on stuff, and maybe stay away from that. Even good for, you know, stuff like our clear parts that we have here, like canopies and stuff. Really cool for cleaning these up as well. It doesn't affect them, it doesn't create hazes or anything like that. Really cool for cleaning them up. Say, normally I sort of use it, do you know, when we remove the masking tape off canopies and stuff? Well, sometimes that can leave like little marks from the actual masking tape. Well, you know, use a bit of IPA and it cleans it up really sort of nicely with a cotton wool bud. Really cool stuff to have. Next up we have Andy Mac UK. Basically puts, "Hi all, I normally love to watch Bobby's builds in the luxury of HD on my TV. The Edard Hellcat build episode 21 will only play in low res. I've been trying for a couple of days with no improvement." Okay, this one, sadly, I don't know what happened there, in all honesty. I upload these videos and I normally upload them in HD. I don't know if it was my end or YouTube's end, but for some reason that one episode just went in low res. Basically the answer to that is I have taken it down, deleted it, and I've re-uploaded it, so it is now in HD. we now have Michael Ward for a little bit of a tutorial here. He basically asked, could you prepare a little tutorial on how to string radio antennas using thread, most notably on World War II aircraft. Cheers mate, watching you from the USA. Well, thank you for that, Ward. We're going to show you a little tutorial. Now I don't actually have a built model to show you antennas and stuff, so I basically made my own little bit of a little bit of a model just here, just to kind of show you, basically representing the tail, and then we go to sort of like the radio antenna area, and basically we want to put a nice little line going across here. Now I'll just bring you in a little bit close for this because it is a little bit small. Let's bring all the cameras in, shall we? So first off, we've got a couple of different products. We've got this easy line stuff, right, and then we've got this Ushi, this manufacturer called Ushi. It's like German or something. You do have to get it from Europe and whatnot, and basically it's called Rig That Thing. This product here is probably more sort of your World War One biplanes and stuff, because they're very, very, very fine. Something like the smallest one, this one actually is 0. I think it's 0.001 mil. Mega fine. I'll see if I can actually sort of show you on camera. It is quite realistic because it is so small, right? But there is an up and down to it. It's realistic in the sense that, you know, you've got the size kind of realistic. But the problem is, because it ends up being so small, which I don't know if I can get you on camera, it ends up being so small that it's so hard to actually see. As you can just see there, it's really hard to see it, which kind of almost makes it look like there isn't one on there, although we've got a nice sort of realistic in scale size, if you know what I mean. So as much as I do like it, because you generally can't quite see it, it does kind of spoil it a little bit. It's kind of almost like you're better going up in scale, although it's not sort of looking in scale, but you can then see it. Actually, I mean, Ushi does do, they do go up in scale as well, so you can buy from there. But Easy Line is something that, you can get pretty much anywhere. Just Google Easy Line and you'll find a whole bunch of places where you can go buy it from. We have the heavy, as you can see, we can see this one, and all these, it's not string, it's basically, well, it is string sort of, but it's like, it's all rubber, so it's all nice and stretchable. As you can see, we can just stretch that nicely, and that's what gives this the perfect characteristics for doing radio antennas and all this kind of cool stuff. Maybe in the past people went off and got you know, plastic rods like this, get a lighter, melt it, pull it out, so you end up with this long sort of plastic string, and then you stick that down and stuff. Easily broken. Wire, easily broken. Actual string, you know, string can be a bit furry, so it sort of doesn't look so good, but rubber's not. You know, so that's what makes this a good one. I do like the fine from the Easy Line. Does seem to be a sort of a nice size, in which, okay, it's potentially a bit out of scale, but it's sort of still kind of fine, but you can sort of see it a little bit better still as well, so I do like that. But for this one, I'm going to use the heavy so we can actually see it on camera a little bit better. So what we want to do, get out any sort of glue, super glue, something really cheap. I always use the cheap pots and everything these days, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually put this onto some sort of a lid. As you can see, my cocktail lid just here, absolutely does not matter one bit. Alright, there we go. Probably a good idea to get some sort of a vital bond out, right, because we want to be able to sort of, you know, glue this sort of quickly. I'm just going to test it. There we go, it still works. So sometimes on the end of these nibs it sort of dries up and you can't squirt it out, and I just want to make sure that was good for the camera. So we want to start off nice and easy. Let's get out some locking tweezers just to lock this in place for you guys on camera, like so. So what we could do is we want to go off. All right, oh crap, I need a cocktail stick, which, hold on, I'll put my super glue on there. So get a cocktail stick, or you could use a super glue applicator. It's totally and utterly up to you. Right, I'm trying to put this lid on without getting super glue everywhere. Get a bit of super glue on our cocktail stick just there. And then we want to get a bit of this EZ line. Now we can leave a load of slack the opposite end, right, and just a little bit of glue. That's probably a little bit too much glue. Maybe bring you in a little bit closer as well. Right, and what we want to do is just touch the end like so, and there we go. We could pretty much leave that. It does quite, the rubber does seem to lock in quite quickly with the super glue. And then if you want to sort of hurry things up, quick spray of the old Vital Bond, give it a blow. There we go. Test it, see if we can actually stretch this without it breaking. Just only a little bit of a stretch, so that's nice and tight now. And then what we want to do is in the opposite end, right, we're going to do basically the same, only this time we want to actually, I want to try and get this so you can see it and me do it at the same time. So the sort of playing around a little bit here. Right, so what I want to do is you want to sort of not leave it slack like so. You want to sort of give it a bit of a pull. Right, and this one you're probably going to have to hold for a little bit, but then we touch it with the super glue, right, and we need to sort of hold that for a bit until it bites. But as you can see, we've got enough slack on there so it looks sort of nice and sort of tight. We don't want to push it so much that we put too much tension on it, but just enough so it doesn't look slack. Quick blast of the old Vital Bond. Give it a blow. We're basically in place then, but we do have, cut that if we can, but we do have all this sort of leftover. Now I've left all this leftover bit because, you know, there's no point sort of really trying to struggle and try and get it all nice and up front and everything. It's probably good you use a brand new blade for this as well. You want to be able to cut this quite easily. But I just want to move along, and to sort of cut these off nicely, if we grab the end, give it a sort of a nice pull, and then with our blade we should be able to cut that off quite nicely. Giving it a nice pull, just make sure it gets off, you know, it gets sort of cut nicely up to it. And again, I'm just going to pull it, and again I'm going to try and cut this. I'm trying to keep you on camera and do this myself, so I do apologise. Maybe try and come upwards on this one. Hold on. Here we go. Let's try doing that. And there we go. And there we go. That would basically be on a model, and as you can see, we've got it all nicely cut both ends. It feels nice and taut and whatnot, but not so much is going to put too much strain on it. And you know, this is kind of the perfect thing about it. One, it looks good. Two, you know, if we knock it, like as you can see, I'm, you know, basically playing the guitar with this and it's not breaking, which, you know, that's the whole cool thing about having the rubber. It's not breaking. If we did it how people used to do it in the good old days, and they, you know, got the plastic, heated it up and made a string and stuck that on, you know, a little knock, boom, it's broke. You know, it's not good. But because it's rubber, it's got that kind of you know, slack to it, enough sort of movement in it that you're not gonna break it. So that's basically how you do it. Nice, easy, you know, just follow that and you should have no problems at all. By the way, I know the model will probably be painted at this stage, so don't worry about Vital Bond having any problems with paint. I've never had my model stain in any way by spraying this stuff onto paint. And then probably afterwards, because you use super glue can sort of leave a nice shiny sort of finish to it, so you might want to come along and spray a little bit of a quick matte coat on there, just to sort of help blend in the easy line, as well as get rid of any shininess from our sort of the gloss that's left over from the CA glue. Last one for our Q&A is Gary. Now, Gary puts, hi, love your videos and have learned so much. I am still not clear on the application of enamel washes on top of acrylic paints. I am worried that if I would remove, if I'd remove the base coat. I understand that before you use enamel washes over acrylics, you have to seal with a clear coat. Can you confirm? If so, how many layers of clear? Use gloss or flat? How long should the clear dry before using the enamel? Also, what about if you use a brush to put on the wash? Is it too much paint to be applied? What step do you apply decals before the weathering? And he's also got, I'd appreciate a nice, very detailed explanation how this process how this process is followed. I already ruined a model trying to use enamel over acrylic, and also destroyed my decals. Right then, by the sounds of it, if you've destroyed your decals by using enamel wash, it does sound like that maybe you're not using actual enamels or actual weathering products intended for modeling, because I mean, we've got AK Interactive, I've got a pot here, Tilt Lung here and stuff, odorless thinners, AK, ammo. They all do their own specific sort of turpentine and everything, and it's specifically formulated for modeling. And whenever I've used their specific product, I've never had my sort of enamels eat into paint or anything like that. So I'm kind of assuming that maybe you've gone off and gone to a hardware store and you've used, like, you know, white spirits or turpentine, you know, from a hardware store and not specifically bought for modeling, is what I'm kind of assuming here. But to sort of go through the process, basically enamels and acrylics is like oil to water. You can sort of spray down acrylic paint, and really you can get away with not even I've got away with not actually even putting a sealable gloss coat on top, and I've used, you know, the ammo or AK, you know, Pacific products for the job, straight on top of acrylics, and I've had no real problems actually. So I'm kind of guessing that's where your problem is maybe, I don't know, maybe you've gone off and say, we've got some we've got some Humbrol paints just here. These Humbrol paints, they're enamel. I know you can sort of thin them down with white spirits or turpentine and make your own washes, but again, it's not really specifically designed for the task, and it can have adverse effects, as you know, as we've possibly seen here. And yeah, you know, these kind of turpentines and stuff can eat into decals and they can ruin them, right? So I think really the answer for this is to make sure you are buying the right product specifically for the task, because it should be like oil to water. You should be able to apply your washes and put it on top of acrylics, and it should be absolutely fine. Decals, on the other hand, as I say, they can be affected. They can start wrinkling up as if you're putting a decaling solution on them. So it is a good idea, if you're using decals, to definitely put on a gloss coat. When using acrylic paints, you should be able to get away with actually not using a gloss coat, but it is always good to seal your gloss coats in, and to seal all your work in with gloss and whatnot, because the process really is, you know, you paint your models with, you know, acrylic paints or whatever, you seal them in with a gloss coat, you then put your decals on top of them, you seal them in with a gloss coat, and then with all those gloss coats and everything, sandwiching everything in, protecting everything in, you should be more than well protected to go off and use any kind, well, not any kind, sorry, the specifically brought sort of enamel washes and all those kind of things to do all your washes then. And as always, you know, you want to make sure that, you know, everything has cured properly, right? So you spray your model, whatever acrylic colors, you know, leave them overnight to dry, seal it in with a gloss coat, leave them overnight to dry. Everything needs to cure, you know, every stage you go through, make sure your paint's cured, not touch dry, but has cured, right? And the same with your decals, make sure your decals have cured, then you put a gloss coat on top, right? Because if anything's wet in those stages, you can have stuff like cracking paint, and you know what, maybe you could have you know, your enamel washes effect. I mean, maybe that's potentially another reason why things have been affected. Maybe you are using the right products, but you haven't let your acrylics paints dry long enough, and you come in straight away with a wash, and that can also start to smudge it and eat into your paint and everything, especially your decals. So it's probably those two reasons: the paint hasn't been left to dry long enough, or you're not using the right product. So hopefully that answers your question, Gary. Hopefully it sort of helps you guys as well, sort of answer your questions. But generally, you know, make sure you leave your paints to dry, and make sure you use the right products, and that is pretty much 9 times out of 10 what the problems are gonna be. So yeah, hopefully that's answered that question. Now sadly we have come to the end of our Q&As, but if you've got any Q&A questions out there, please send them in. You can email me, you can go on to the Genesis Models forum, and on the forum there is a specific thread there for the Q&A vlogs for this specific vlog. So if you want to get your questions in, that's probably the best place, because that's where I go straight away. But any emails, I try and save them for next month. Any questions that you have on YouTube, I try and save them for the next month's Q&A. So you know, get all your questions in, and I'll do my best to answer them here in the Q&A vlog. So hopefully you have enjoyed. So until next time, my name is Bobby Waldron, and I'll catch you later.